Every evening around 9 o'clock, my father would settle into his familiar armchair, facing the television with its quiet nighttime news hum. A soft amber lamp would cast a gentle glow across his salt and pepper hair, and the small glass of red wine resting on the wooden table beside him. He never drank much, he never did, just one sip of red, no more, no less. And each time with a casual shrug, he'd say, "Just a little, to help me sleep better." It was a ritual, like brushing teeth, turning off lights, locking the doors. A habit so familiar that no one questioned it anymore. Until one night, I noticed him tossing and turning more than usual. First adjusting his pillow, then sitting up to rub his forehead. By nearly 3 a.m., his eyes were still open, staring at the ceiling, as if waiting for a sleep that never arrived. The next morning, over toast and strawberry jam, he quietly said without looking at anyone, "Strange, the wine doesn't seem to help anymore. The more I drink, the harder it is to sleep." That short sentence stopped me in my tracks, and I began to wonder, could the thing he'd always believed was helping him sleep be the very thing quietly taking it away? And if so, how many others out there are also having just a little each night, never realizing that what they thought was comfort might actually be slowly stealing their most peaceful hours? There was a time when just one small sip of wine at night would lull my father into sleep like a driftwood log floating down a still river. Sleep came quickly, as light as a leaf falling in autumn. He used to say, "The body needs to unwind a little. Only then can we fall into deep sleep." But time passed, and his body, like an old machine, became harder to read. There were nights when even with the lingering sweetness of wine on his tongue, he would toss and turn for hours. Waking at 1 a.m., then again at 2, then staying awake until almost dawn. His eyes stayed open, his head felt heavy like fog, but his throat was dry like a desert. And when the first sliver of sunlight touched the window, he would sit up more exhausted than when he went to bed. Maybe it's the weather, he'd mumble, or just getting old, but deep down I sensed it wasn't just age. I began to notice a pattern. On mornings after his little drink, he seemed more irritable, spoke less, had less patience for the little things, and one morning, as he stared into his cup of tea, he said in a dry, tired voice, "The more I drink, the more drained I feel." That was when I started researching, and what I discovered was this: alcohol doesn't help you sleep. It only tricks your body into thinking it's tired. Yes, it slows brain activity at first, like drawing a heavy curtain over the mind. But once you fall asleep, alcohol actually interferes with deep rest. It disrupts the REM cycle, the stage where dreams and real recovery happen. The result? You fall asleep fast, but wake up in the middle of the night, struggle to fall back asleep, and wake up feeling sore, foggy, and unrested, as if someone had been quietly pressing on your body all night long. Younger people might bounce back, but after age 70, your liver slows down. Your ability to regulate temperature and maintain steady sleep weakens. Even a small glass of wine can confuse the body. It turns sleep into a broken journey, fragmented and fragile. I realized this habit, one that had seemed harmless, was quietly stealing something precious from my father, the peaceful rest he deserved in his older years. When you live with aging parents, you begin to sense things not with your ears, but with your intuition. I didn't notice my father changing from his words, but from the way he held his wine glass without sipping, the distant look in his eyes behind the curtains, and the soft sound of him shifting in bed at night, like leaves rustling quietly in the wind. So I decided to do something small. I pulled out an old notebook, its pages yellowed like winter bark, and began to take notes. I didn't tell anyone. It was just a quiet experiment, a daughter trying to understand her father through sleep. Each day I wrote, what time did he have his drink? How long before he went to bed? When did he wake up? What was his mood the next morning? And slowly a clear, unsettling pattern emerged, like the toll of an old church bell echoing through a sleepy town. Every night he drank wine, even just a small glass. He woke up, sometimes at 1 a.m., sometimes at 3 a.m., and every morning after, he was tired, his shoulders hunched just a little more, his steps slower. I couldn't stay silent anymore. One Friday evening, as he poured his usual drink, my mother gently spoke, not harsh, not commanding, just a whisper like a breeze. Maybe we could try skipping it for a few nights. We're not so young anymore. My father paused. He stared into the red swirl of the wine glass. And then, without a word, he pushed it aside and poured himself a warm glass of water instead. The first few nights weren't easy. He paced around the kitchen like he was searching for something missing from his routine. "I'm used to it," he said. "It just feels incomplete without it." But we didn't tell him to quit. We just offered him something new. I tried a few gentle substitutes: warm water with a slice of lemon and a pinch of sea salt, caffeine-free chamomile tea steeped in his favorite ceramic cup, a small glass of tart cherry juice naturally rich in melatonin. Each evening, I'd place the drink next to his chair. No pressure, no speeches. At first, he only sipped it just to humor me. But one night, he drank the whole thing and quietly murmured, "Smells like autumn grass in the afternoon." That first week, his sleep still came in pieces. But by the second week, I began to notice changes. He no longer woke up multiple times, no longer wandered the house at night, no longer sighed when pulling back the curtain in the morning. And then one Sunday, he walked into the room with a face I hadn't seen in a long time, clear-eyed, steady, peaceful. He sat down at the table, cradled a warm cup of tea in his hands, and looked at my mother as if speaking to himself. I slept straight through the night. Can't even remember waking up once. I said nothing. I simply opened my notebook and wrote in black ink, "Day 19 without wine." Father slept deeply all night. We didn't change the world. We changed one habit. No medicine, no machines, no specialists. Just awareness, care, and a little patience. I realized then sleep doesn't come from adding more to the body. It comes from how gently we treat it before we lie down at night. It comes from soft light, steady breath, a warm drink, and peace in the heart. Elderly people, like old trees, don't need dramatic changes. Sometimes all it takes is a soft breeze through familiar branches to wake up an entire sleeping garden. For my father, instead of saying, "You need to stop drinking wine," I said, "Let's try a new evening ritual, one made just for those who've lived a full life." A sleep ritual, a gentle alternative to wine. No sleeping pills, just 3 small steps done nightly like a quiet magic spell for the body and heart. We called it the sleep ritual. 1. Turn off the TV early. Create a space for silence. About 30 minutes before bedtime, I gently invited my father to turn off the television. No more news anchors, no more commercials. Instead, we filled the room with soft sounds. Simulated rain tapping gently on a rooftop, or 528 hertz tones like a stream flowing through time. These sounds didn't tell a story. They didn't take you anywhere. They simply stayed in the room, in the body, in the places that were tired and needed soothing. I turned on a small amber night lamplight as soft as silk. The room no longer felt like where a 75-year-old man lived, but a warm cave carved just for sleep. 2. Replace the wine with a drink that cares. Wine, red, white, or strong, is often a companion for lonely nights. But when we begin to care for ourselves, we don't need something that helps us forget. We need something that brings us home. We experimented with chamomile tea, smelled like summer fields, soothed the stomach and the spirit. lemon mint tea, caffeine-free. The first breath of an autumn evening, warm water with a slice of ginger and honey, like a whisper from a mother. My father didn't decide right away, but eventually he settled on warm water with lemon and a pinch of sea salt. "Tastes like the ocean I used to swim in," he said. I didn't need to explain. I knew an aging body doesn't need alcohol. It needs hydration. And if love is in the cup, any drink can be healing. 3. Write down one gratitude. Close the notebook and the day. Before bed, I placed a small notebook next to his bed. No lines, no structure, just blank pages like a field no one had stepped on yet. Each night, he wrote down one thing he was grateful for. Just one. The tree outside bloomed again. Tonight's tea was easy to drink. Took a nice nap this afternoon. Then he closed the notebook. And in that act, it was as if he closed all the unfinished thoughts of the day, so tomorrow would have room to begin. A 5-night no wine challenge. For those over 70, I'm not sharing this to promote a program. I'm simply inviting you to dip your foot into warm water. The 5-night no wine challenge. No rules, no competition. Just swap one glass of wine with one act of self-love. Turn off the TV early. Drink a caring cup. Write one small thing you're thankful for. After 5 nights, ask yourself, did your body sleep more deeply? Did your mind feel just a little more at peace? Because the wine isn't wrong, your body has simply changed. Wine is not the villain. It was once a friend. But like many old friends, there comes a time when we must say goodbye to welcome a new chapter in life. Your body, after 70 years of surviving war's eras, heartbreaks and winters, deserves to be cared for in a new way. No pressure, just gentleness, just quiet love for yourself each night before you close your eyes. And from that point on, my father's nights no longer began with wine, but with a warm drink, a soft song, and a whispered thank you to himself. There's something I didn't realize, not until my father began smiling more in the mornings. The usual frown on his face when he woke up was gone. So were the gruff words, "Didn't sleep again last night." Instead, he sat quietly by the window, hands wrapped around a warm cup of tea, watching the last autumn leaves fall gently onto the sill. He turned to me, voice low and soft like early mist. "I don't need wine anymore. Just a hot cup of tea and the sound of wind by the window. That's enough." Looking back, I can't pinpoint the exact night when he finally slept through until morning, because this journey didn't arrive at a finish line. It arrived slowly on small repeated steps. One cup of tea instead of wine. One soft melody instead of the TV. One line of gratitude instead of unfinished worries. Each tiny act like a patch on an old quilt, stitched back together a peaceful night. My father once thought he had lost forever. If you're still here reading these lines, then maybe you too once believed like my father did. Just a little wine won't hurt, that you've grown used to it, that it's the only way to coax yourself into sleep. But being used to something doesn't mean it still serves you today. Your body has lived through so many seasons. It deserves to be loved differently, now gently, softly, kindly. A heartfelt invitation. If you're able to tonight, try replacing your usual glass of wine with a cup of chamomile tea or warm water and a spoon of honey. Turn off the TV just 15 minutes earlier. Put on the sound of rain, wind, or soft music. And before turning out the light, write down one thing you feel grateful for today. You don't need to change your whole life, just the cup you drink before bed. And if tomorrow morning you find yourself sleeping better, even just a little, come back to this video and share your story. I'll read every single word, because I believe, even at 70, your sleep still deserves to begin with gentleness. Sleep better after 70. No wine needed, just a little care. Because sleep doesn't need intoxication. It just needs to be welcomed with love and a quiet nightly ritual, like an invisible hug from your own heart.